As California's wildfire season approaches, officials with a state agency that oversees cleanup of the Santa Susana Field Laboratory in the hills above the San Fernando and Simi valleys have presented a plan to remove a dozen buildings that in case of the fire and heavy rain could potentially release contaminants in the nearby communities. A group of specialists with the Department of the Toxic Substances Control, known as DTSC, aim to demolish 10 buildings, including several of the most contaminated structures, following a consent order released in May by the Department of Energy, or DOE, and DTSC. The discussion comes nearly 2 years after the destructive Woolsey Fire started November 8 at E Street and Alfa Road, on the Santa Susana site, scorching a large swath of the field. To mitigate the risk of another destructive wildfire, state officials are now looking to dismantle the above-ground portions of the buildings in the upcoming months. With the climate change, we're seeing hotter and longer fires that we've ever experienced before and more destructive fires than we've ever experienced before, said Grant Cope, DTSC Site Mitigation and Restoration Program Deputy Director and the SSFL Project Director. All the models that we're using to take a look at the future tell us it's going to get worse. We're doing the work we can now to get rid of the above-ground structures, eliminating potential threats. This action requires DOE to remove all 10 buildings within the Radioactive Materials Handling Facility Complex, the 1.5 complex built in 1959 to handle nuclear fuel. The area located in Area IV is now laced with radionuclides, heavy metals, solvents, oils and greases, lead-based paint and asbestos-containing materials, officials said. The 850-acre Santa Susana Field site was established in 1947 and used for rocket testing and nuclear testing. In 1959, one of its reactors experienced a partial meltdown, releasing radiation into the air above the West San Fernando Valley communities. Decades of operations left the soil and groundwater laced with toxic chemicals. Experts have long warned that another destructive fire could potentially release large amounts of contamination near the area where about 500,000 people live. The Santa Susana Field Lab is owned by the Department of Energy, Boeing and NASA. About a decade ago, NASA and DOE signed an administrative order on consent with the California Environmental Protection Agency, promising to clean up their portion of the area by 2017. Advocates and residents worry that removing the buildings will only eliminate the fraction of the contamination at the field where the vast majority of toxins remain in the soil. In their plan, presented Thursday, officials didn't provide the timeline for the cleanup following the demolition of the buildings. Cope said NASA, Boeing and DOE are financially responsible for cleaning up their portions of the area,